Opening our meeting, calling the meeting to order. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a special board meeting tonight that all can participate in remotely. You can join via Zoom. Specific directions on how to participate are located on the Board of Education webpage on the district's website, nvusd.org/board. The open session part of the meeting agenda begins at 5:30 p.m. Our next item is public comment on closed session items. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Is there any public comment on closed session items?
There's no public comment for closed session items.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Seeing that there are none, the Napa Valley Unified School District will now adjourn into closed session. See you all at 5:30 p.m. Thank you. We are reconvening to open session. Good evening. My name is Elba Gonzalez Mares, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a special board meeting tonight that all can participate remotely. You can join via Zoom. Buenas noches, mi nombre es Elba González Mares y esta es la Mesa de Educación del Distrito Escolar Unificado del Valle de Napa, NVUSD por sus siglas en inglés. La Mesa de Educación de NVUSD está llevando a cabo una reunión especial esta noche en la que todos pueden participar de forma remota. Puede unirse a través de Zoom. Interpretation in Spanish and Filipino Tagalog is available for tonight's board meeting. To access interpretation from a computer, click on the interpretation icon on the bottom of your screen from within the Zoom application. On a mobile device, click on the More button on the bottom of your screen and choose Language Interpretation from within the Zoom application. This is a separate channel that will allow you to hear English to Spanish and English to Tagalog Filipino translation concurrently. Please note, interpretation services are not available when you join our meeting by calling in. Our Spanish interpreters for tonight's meeting are Marci Valdivieso and Paul Huertas. May we have one of the interpreters please translate these directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families can access the instructions.
Buenas noches. Esta noche la mesa directiva del Distrito Escolar del Valle de Napa tiene una reunión. Usted puede acceder a esta reunión y escucharla en español si está usted en su computadora en la plataforma Zoom. En la parte baja media de su pantalla va a ver usted un símbolo de globo terráqueo. Le hace clic ahí y oprima el idioma español, que va a decir Spanish. Si usted está llamando de un teléfono celular, puede acceder también a este servicio apretando el símbolo de más en su teclado. Si usted está llamando por un teléfono regular, no se le va a poder ofrecer el servicio de interpretación en español. Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Specific instructions on how to participate in the meeting are located on the Board of Education webpage on the district's website, nvusd.org/board. Can we please start with an attendance roll call from Julie Pressey, Executive Assistant?
Yes. Student Board Member Bitt.
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Present.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Present.
Trustee Gracia.
Present.
Trustee Reiser.
Present.
Trustee Water.
Present.
Trustee Chu.
Present.
Trustee Daly.
Here.
Quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Napa Valley Unified School District special board meeting. Public participation remains virtual, online only. This meeting tonight is in accordance with the open meeting rules in the state of California per Assembly Bill 361. I'm going to start tonight with some basic instructions on how we are going to be using Zoom and involve the members of the community. All of Board of Education trustees and the superintendent are in video throughout the entire board meeting from here in the boardroom. Other staff members are present by video. Members of the community will not be on video and will be muted except during public comment. During public comment, any member of the community that wishes to speak must raise their hand using the raise hand feature in Zoom. You will be unmuted and will be provided 3 minutes to speak. Instructions on how to raise your hand are available on the district's website at nvusd.org/board. Tonight's meeting is a special meeting of the board and there will be no public comment on non-agenda items. You may make public comment on agenda items only. Right, our next, starting with our agenda now is asking Trustee Gracia to report on closed session items.
Yes, we have one matter to report from closed session. D1 student discipline, D1A1. The board recommends for the expulsion of student 11042021. Move to approve.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Daly. Julie, Pressy, if you could conduct roll call.
Yes. Trustee Gonzalez Morris,
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Abstain.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Chu,
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move forward with our flag salute, and as we've been going down in order, it's your turn, Trustee Reiser, to lead us on the flag salute tonight. Next item is an announcement that this meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For a detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archived video can be referenced and located on the district's webpage at nvusd.org. The public can join the virtual board meeting remotely via Zoom. Participation instructions on and the process for public comment can be found on the district's webpage. We're now moved to approve our special session agenda. However, before we take a motion, since our presenters for the redistricting are not here yet, so we're going to have to move the public hearing of the petition to establish the Mayacamas Charter Middle School before. So if I could.
Sure, I'll move to approve as amended.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. Oh, okay.
All right.
We had a first and a
I'll move
second.
to amend.
You can withdraw the motion and make a new motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw the motion and now I'll move to just approve it as regular.
I will second.
All right, a first by Trustee Gracia, a second by Trustee Dooley. Student Board Rep.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? And
President Gonzalez Mares, before we start with redistricting, our Tagalog interpreter also just arrived, so we may want to have him also make the translation statement before we proceed with the first agenda item.
yes, thank you, Dr. Missetti. Welcome our Filipino Tagalog interpreter. This is our interpreter for tonight's meeting is Dennis Castro. Mr. Castro, if you could please translate instructions on how in our English channel so our Tagalog speaking families can access our interpretation services.
I would be happy to. Good evening. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Dennis Castro. Ako po yung tagasalin sa Tagalog sa gabi nito. Para magamit po ang tagapagsalin mula sa computer, mag-click po kayo sa tatak ng interpretation o pagsalin dun sa baba ng screen ninyo sa application ng Zoom. Kung nasa isang gamit kayo na mobile, pwede nyo i-click yung isang button na nakasulat more o mahigit pa dun sa baba ng screen ninyo At saka piliin po ninyo ang lingwahe o language interpretation o yung pagsaling sa lingwahe mula dun sa application ng Zoom. Hiwalay na channel po ito. Makakakinig po kayo sa English at sa Tagalog na sabay. Tandaan po ninyo, yung tagapagsalin po ng serbisyo ay hindi po available kung nakikinig po kayo at tumatawag po kayo sa telepono. Maraming salamat po. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now entering our, getting started on, now that we have an approved agenda and we have our translators and interpreters in order, we are going to start with our agenda of F1 of General Services. And item F1A, this is our public hearing for School Board Trustee Area Redistricting for 2021. And before we open for public hearing, though, we are going to have a presentation by those who are going to be sharing the information.
So I'd like to invite our redistricting consultants from Q2, Jane Hood and Tamina Alan, who will be presenting on the next phase of the work to inform the public about redistricting before we open up the public hearing. So Jordan, can we please get the slides up for the presenters, please?
Can you see my slides all right?
Yes, we can see them, Tamina. Tamina, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Good evening, everyone. Apologies for that. My name is Tamina Alan. I'm with Q2 Data and Research. I'm here with my colleague, Jane Hood, and very glad to work with NVUSD again to see you all. We are going to be going through just a quick presentation of public input and communities of interest today to get you warmed up for receiving communities of interest for your redistricting season. So today we're going to be doing first an introduction and background.
Can I interrupt you? I'm so sorry. From what our view is showing is your slides are cut off and they're on preview mode, which means that the public may not be seeing the entirety of your slides. Is there any way for you to go into full present mode?
Try that again. Thank you.
Before you proceed with the content? I don't know.
Let me try sharing.
Am I correct, Jordan, that the slides are only being partially viewed?
Yes, the left side of the main slide. There we go, much better.
Is that any better? Okay, fantastic. I apologize for that. So we're going to do a quick introduction and background, talk about what is redistricting, a little bit about the laws that govern redistricting in the state of California, our criteria for redistricting in this redistricting, communities of interest, our process timeline, and how to get involved. So as many of you know, in 2020, the Napa Valley Unified School District transitioned from at-large elections to trustee-based district-based elections. This move was prompted by the California Voting Rights Act, which actually triggered many different jurisdictions across the state to have to do the exact same process, transitioning from at-large to trustee districts. NVUSD has 7 trustee areas for the Board of Education, and the trustees must live in their areas to be eligible to represent it. So voters in each area elect a trustee for their trustee area who lives in that area. 3 different areas of laws, which we won't go into in great detail, but just so you know what we are thinking about when we're thinking about redistricting laws, there are 3 different sets of laws that cover this. The US Constitution being the highest of those, and that is going to require equal population. This is the idea of one person, one vote. That comes to us from the US population, and that's why we draw our districts to have equal population. The Federal Voting Rights Act gives us information about how to draw different types of districts to make sure that previously disadvantaged or currently disadvantaged voting minorities are protected. Also gives a few other different rules that may or may not be applicable depending on what Voting Rights Council says for our particular jurisdiction. And then of course there's California law and the California Voting Rights Act as well. So all of these are going to be kept in mind by the Voting Rights Act attorneys that you have, as well as the trustees as they're going forward. So what are the mapping criteria for creating districts? I introduced the law for these because we want to talk about exactly what these criteria are, and I want to tell you a little bit about where that comes from. So our mapping criteria comes from these different sets of laws. First is the federal law. Like I said, compliance with the US Constitution is where we get equal population. So we're going to try, the idea is to create districts which are relatively equal in population in order to give everybody an equal say in their voting district. Also compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which I said before encompasses language and race minorities, disadvantaged minorities, and has some rules about drawing districts if there is found to be an area with racially polarized voting and a majority of that race present within that area. Then we have non-federal traditional redistricting criteria, which include contiguity, respect for communities of interest, and compactness. Contiguity just means that these areas are next to each other. So in other words, if you think of your representative, they should be able to walk on foot their entire district without having to jump into another district or another trustee area before getting to the rest of their trustee area. So being contiguous is one of the redistricting criteria. Another is respect for communities of interest, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. And then there's compactness, which means that reasonably, the district looks more like a fist than with fingers spread out. And instead of drawing trustee areas that reach out in thin stringy lines to different parts of the trustee areas, they're kept reasonably around each other so that the area is reasonably compact. Other criteria include topography, geography, cohesiveness, integrity, and more. So our current trustee areas actually have fairly decent population deviations. Area 1 is at 0.34%. Area 2 is at 0.24%. Area 3 is negative 4.81%. Area 4 is negative 2.4%. Area 5 is 5.82%. Area 6 is 0.89%. And area 7 is 0.09 negative percent, negative 0.09%. What this means is that these are the percentages off of a perfect and ideal deviation for each of those trustee areas. So for example, area 1 would have 0.34% more of a district than would be ideal. Generally speaking, these are very good numbers. The safe harbor, and again, this is something for your Voting Rights Council to take a look at, but the safe harbors generally are that you don't want to go above or below 5%, so 5% plus and negative 5%. In this case, because there was a districting that was done so recently, we actually are able to have something that is somewhat, and because of the population shifting not being as drastic as it could have been in the recent census, we actually have some pretty good deviations here, with the exception of perhaps area 5 with a 5.82%. Perhaps that could be lowered a little bit, but that tells you a little bit about the work and the type of work that you'll be doing going forward, and about possible considerations for how you want to start your new maps. Here are our current deviations by trustee area. So this is just what we looked at before. except in picture form. So you see the numbers that we had, but you see them now spread out across the map. You'll see the area that I was referring to as being a little bit overpopulated is area 5 with a positive 5.82%. However, it is neighboring an area which is negative 4.81% in area 3. So there are possibilities if the trustees decide, if the board decides to adjust that line, that that you could even out population between those two. But of course, you also have the option of starting a new map or moving any other lines as you see fit according to the redistricting criteria. Criteria number 4 is communities of interest. And this is where we really like to get the public involved. The concept of communities of interest is generally described as a geographic area comprised of residents who share similar interests. And we get the definitions from these, not from a layer or something that's published out there that tells us exactly where this geography is, but we get it from public testimony. We get it from people who call in and say, I would really like to be with this particular neighborhood, or I think this my neighborhood is bounded by this street, this street, this street, and this street. And I think we should all be kept together because we go to the same parties and we shop at the same places and we eat at the same restaurants and we all enjoy soccer or whatever the case may be. So this is where we're going to really look for public to call in, write in, email in, use the redistricting tool online to tell us exactly where these communities are. The law does not limit the kinds of interests which may bind a community together. So really what brings you together is up to you. It's up to you to decide who it is that lives and works in the community and identify what those interests are that unite it. So it's important not only to say, here is specifically the area, but this is why we are a community and we would like to be kept together. Some common interests of communities some common interest examples include economic interests. So current situation, employment or economic opportunities, expanding opportunities and access, social interests, schools, culture, language, transportation, goals of improving recreational opportunities or public safety, preserving historical resources, and neighborhoods are often thought of as communities of interest. You can also think of things that are common goals that are coming down the pipe. So say you have a large neighborhood that's being built or a new community that's being built, and there's a community that is surrounding that particular project or interested in that project, then that could be a community of interest as well. So it doesn't have to be something that's going on right now. A goal of a community or a particular concern can also be a community of interest. So here is where we ask for what your community of interest is, what ties you together, and what common interests you share, what the boundaries are, where is it on the map, and how is it the same or different from areas around your community, and why it be beneficial for you to be kept together in one district, and would it be a problem if your community was split up? So how do you write this down? How do you document your COI? So like I said, there are kind of two pieces that we want to put together. One is the where is it, and the other is the why is it. So number one for what binds your community together, not bonds, what binds your community together, what is the why? What defines your community of interest? What's your mission or commonality, your shopping, your soccer, your religious gatherings, your anything that really defines your community? And how is it different outside your community? How would someone know that they're in your community versus not? And then secondly is the where. Where is your community located? And this is where we really need physical boundaries that we can put on a map, draw on a map, and say where it is. So streets are really great for this. If you are able to write down that this street, you know, I am bordered by Highway 29 coming down through, you know, American Canyon or whatever, wherever your streets are, then you're able to say, you know, this is exactly where I would like to define this area be kept together and not be split up, or this area be linked to a particular school or a particular activity or a particular field. And that way you're able to tell the mappers who are going to be working on this a way to draw your space physically and represent it on paper on the maps. COI testimony can be submitted either drawn on paper and submitted to the Board of Trustees. It can be submitted on the website. There are instructions of how to do this on the Community of Interest tool, and you can use them by going to the NVUSD website, and it'll show you the redistricting tool there and how to map out your particular community. Please submit your COI testimony. Community of Interest is COI, sorry. COI is our short name for Community of Interest. Please submit your testimony by December 10th to be considered in the draft maps. That way that'll give the mappers time to digitize all of your testimony. If you wrote it down on paper, we're going to create that into little geographic representations on the map that the board can see. And then they'll be able to be seen when they're being considered for the draft maps. So our timeline, we are already in November, but we started, of course, with our redistricting kickoff on October 14th. And then today we are doing our pre-draft map public input hearing, as well as a second pre-draft map public input hearing on December 9th at 7 o'clock. Either of these places are good places for you to come and talk about your community of interest as well. So please feel free, if you want to just speak about where it is, to come and give your public testimony. December 10th is going to be the deadline to submit your testimony to be considered for the draft maps, because December 13th, we will have the first draft of the proposed trustee areas published on the website. So the NVUSD website will have the maps there for the public to be able to view. And then January 20th of 2022 at 7 p.m., this will be the fourth meeting, and we'll take the board will take public feedback. I won't be taking public feedback. The board will be taking public feedback on what you thought about the draft maps, about what you thought of your communities of interest being put in them, where the lines are, and the public will be able to give another set of public input if they're interested at that particular hearing. January 26, 2022, we will have the revised final draft trustee area maps, and those will be published on the website. So that February 3rd, 2022 at 5:30, our last meeting on the meeting 5, it will be our final hearing, and the board will take a vote on the final maps. March 1st, 2022, submission of the trustee area boundary maps will go to Napa County Committee on School District Organization for approval. So why should you, the public, participate in the redistricting process, particularly by submitting your community of interest? Well, the first reason is because we will not know as the mappers or necessarily as the board where your communities of interest are. So we need you to tell us exactly where those places are so we can make sure that we're hearing from you and best representing your community. We want to make sure your community has a voice and has equal access to the political process. We want to encourage citizens to register, to vote, and to remain politically engaged. And we want to help shape a redistricting plan that provides communities a meaningful opportunity to elect candidates who represent their interests on issues and that are important to their lives. So how do you get involved? To participate in the process, you can testify at any one of the hearings that we have, public hearings. You can call in to submit your testimony. You can submit written testimony via either via email at redistricting2021@nvusd.org, or you can submit there's more information you can get online at nvusd.org/redistricting. You can send supporting information or written testimony to the NVUSD office itself. You can provide community of interest information or other topics that the board needs to know by mail. You can drop it off at the Unified School District office. That's 2425 Jefferson Street, room 124, Napa, California, 94558. And please know that you're also able to submit general commentary as well. You do not necessarily have to submit a community of interest if that's not something that you are interested in doing, but we do welcome your participation and your thoughts on the process as well. And you can get involved and participate through any of these means that are on this slide with any of those particular types of commentary. And we certainly hope that you will come out and tell us what makes your community special and what you would like to see for the maps for the NVUSD for the following season. And thank you very much. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. We're going to now, looking around the room, opening our public hearing, but prior to doing so, the Board of Education will be holding a public hearing to receive public comments and input from communities of interest in the Napa Valley Unified School District. The district is redistricting, the district's redistricting consultants, K2 Data and Research LLC, will facilitate the hearing by providing information about communities of interest and being available to answer questions about the decennial redistricting process underway based on the 2020 census data. Members of the public are welcome and encouraged to provide live comments at the public hearing and are also welcome and encouraged to submit written comments before, during, or after the public hearing. For more information on how to submit input after the public hearing, please go to nvusd.org/redistricting. Okay. We're now going to open for public hearing. In doing so, I will ask Mr. Michaels to please have our first speaker.
Yes, first speaker is Patrick Band.
Thank you very much, trustees.
Mr. Band, one moment. Oh, there we go. There we go. I just want to make sure our timer was on there. Go ahead.
Mr. Michaels, are we good with the screen now?
Thank you. Yes. Patrick Band, I serve as the Executive Director of the Napa County Bicycle Coalition and wanted to provide some comments from the Bicycle Coalition regarding this process. As I hope all of the trustees and members of the public know, for the last 2 years, the Napa County Bicycle Coalition has worked with the County Office of Education and the Napa Valley Transportation Authority to conduct Safe Routes to Schools walk audits at all public schools throughout Napa County, including all schools within NVUSD. As part of that process, we've identified a number of barriers to more kids walking and biking. And what we've noticed is that, as you would imagine, one of the biggest barriers tends to be those high traffic, high volume corridors that we have throughout the city of Napa and American Canyon, most notably Highway 29, Soskull, Jefferson, other major corridors with high volumes and high speeds. And with regard to the redistricting process, we'd simply like to request that those major corridors be considered as boundary lines for new trustee areas. And that also separately that the new trustee areas also be, to the extent possible, coterminous with enrollment boundaries for local schools. One of the things that we found is that parents really want to be engaged in the process of their kids' educations, but also in being able to understand how they can communicate with the district as it relates from our work with getting their kids able to safely walk and bike to school. So we will plan to provide a full comment letter by the deadline, but we want to provide that initial feedback at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Darylyn Christensen. Go ahead, please.
Thank you for unmuting me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Darylyn Christensen, and I am the president of the parent club at Silverado Middle School. And on behalf of the middle school, we would like to express our opinions about the petition for the Mayacamas Middle School Charter. Yes?
Yes, that's our next item. Right now, it's the public hearing for the school board trustee area redistricting. So that's our next item.
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't know when to put my hand up.
That's okay. Thank you. All right, Mr. Michaels, next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Anthony P. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Anthony P. And I was a former student of the Napa Valley Unified School District. I just think it's important to note that there are some individual, or every student has individual needs. I can recall in my own experience, I wanted to go to Napa High, but where my father lived was in the Vintage School District. I practiced with the Napa High football team and then ultimately had to go to Vintage. So I think when you draw these redistricting maps, it's important to keep in mind that there are individual students may have their own path. And if their parents support them, I think the school district should also support them. So please keep interdistrict transfers open. Please keep that available to students, as some students might want to go to different schools that perhaps are not in their district. So please allow that possibility open for all students, no matter what district they're in, that they are able also, if it is the case that they want to interdistrict transfer, to be able to interdistrict transfer. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm going to take a pause right here just to not confuse the redistricting. I'm going to ask Dr. Missetti to just elaborate a little bit more in terms of redistricting versus school boundaries.
Thank you, Anthony, for your comment. Just to clarify for the public and the community, redistricting involves, we're looking at the boundaries for voters around the trustee areas. This does not impact the attendance boundaries for each of our schools, nor does it impact our open enrollment policy. So this is about areas for trustee, it's the trustee areas for the purposes of voting trustees as part of the school board. Again, not enrollment attendance boundary areas by school.
Thank you, Dr. Missetti. All right, next speaker, Mr. Michaels.
Yes. Next speaker is Amy Martinson. Go ahead.
Good evening. I just wanted to go back to something that was said at the introductory or the kickoff for the redistricting. You mentioned that you would be going back and looking at previous public testimony, and I think that is an excellent idea. At that time, there were only 2 jurisdictions redistricting, so there was more focus just on those 2. There are many right now, which divides people's attention. And we were meeting in person for much of that last time, and so there was a lot more participation. So last time, I think we had a chance to see where things could go wrong and correct them this time as well, which is a real benefit. Some ideas came up at the very end that were really the opposite of maintaining communities of interest. There was this idea that the Latinx residents should be spread around throughout the districts, which is the opposite of maintaining communities of interest and dilutes that vote. An idea came in that Napa should be a piece of every district, which again goes against maintaining communities of interest. So part of that, the result of this idea that Napa should be part of every district was splitting American Canyon in 2 and joining each district with a portion of Southern Napa. What that did was make it so that not only did it go against all the public testimony, which asked to be maintained, that for the city of American Canyon to be maintained by the residents themselves, but it made it possible that American Canyon in the future could have no representative on the board if there was a contested election, which is a real problem. So American Canyon obviously is a community of interest itself, the city, but within that, there is a protected group, the Asian American community, which is also a community of interest. I hope the board will take this opportunity to correct what happened last time and to listen to the will of the American Canyon residents last time, which was to keep the community together. And then lastly, the Napa County Progressive Alliance last time submitted a map. I think we might have missed the deadline, which is why it wasn't considered, but I really hope you will look at that map. It had a lot of benefits. First, it created the higher Latinx districts than the current map. It also kept American Canyon together as a city, as a community of interest. It also maintained the rural areas as a community of interest, separate from the city. And they're obviously a community of interest that has unique needs and issues. So, the population might have to be adjusted a little bit, but probably not much based on what we're seeing here. So I really hope that you will go back and look at that map that we submitted, and we will probably be resubmitting it anyway with the updated population. And we also need to look at whether or not a Asian American majority minority district could be created in American Canyon, which we think there's a very good chance that it could, because we almost created one last time. So that needs to be looked at as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Regalado family.
Hi, good evening. This is Sylvia Regalado Zachlad. I'm a parent in American Canyon at an elementary school and middle school. And I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity that we had during the last redistricting to actually get more representation for the American Canyon families on the board. I think that it has proven to be beneficial. Many more families have gotten involved. Parents like myself have become more involved in the trustee meetings. And I would like to actually advocate that we continue to move forward and you continue to be innovative in the representation of a community that is very closely knit and get a little bit far apart from Napa proper, and that you consider having two separate representatives serving American Canyon. I think a lot of the needs of the community will be filled in that way, having two representatives. We have been very fortunate to have both representatives from American Canyon listen to the voices of the parents and families. And I would like to continue to see that progressive movement forward for all of our families. And thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Karina Cervente. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us have this opportunity to express our desires here in American Canyon. I'm a parent of a middle schooler at ACMS and a community leader. And it is very important for our community to continue to have two representatives. I will even go farther to say that we need to really make it a true two American Canyon. So I will suggest and advocate to have the lines redrawn and just be two true American Canyon reps. Our representatives right now, Trustee Chu and Trustee, I forgot her last name now. I had a brain cloud, so I apologize. They have been, yes, thank you. They have been extremely amazing, listening to our desires, our needs, and I thank you for that. But I think that one of the things the whole board needs to also keep in mind is that we are having two major housing developments coming within the next year, and probably one definitely Watson Ranch will be within the next year, and Oat Hill will be another big development that we're really excited about. And so we're going to have a lot more people here in the very near future. So I think that American Canyon needs and deserves 2 trustees. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is TG. Go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you. I wasn't sure if I was being heard. This is Ty Gaskins. I am another American Canyon parent and resident. And I can't say it any better than my 2 friends said it before me. But I'm new to this topic, and I'm just trying to understand and learn about what the issue is and absorb it and process it. I think that there's some more research and information that I need to learn. But from this viewpoint, I agree with what Karina said. We do have more communities coming on board in American Canyon. We're a great community, and I have enjoyed living there. I've been there for 4 years now. And I just want to say that from my perspective as a fairly new resident in the community, seeing that we have 2 trustees, I attend or watch the board meetings pretty often, and they are always representing us. They are listening to us. They are present in our community. They are active at our schools, and they represent us. And I couldn't imagine not having Trustee Chu or Trustee Reiser by our side as we navigate school board issues. And I just want to say that I know I still have a lot to learn and understand about the process and this situation and how this could potentially impact our town and our community. And I plan to look into that. But my voice tonight, I just really wanted to say that I appreciate their work, and I can't imagine going forward without having 2 representing American Canyon. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
There's no further public comment for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Seeing that there's no further public comment, I'm going to close our public hearing. And now I will ask the board for any comment or questions that you may have at this time.
I would just urge that we strongly consider the very slight movement of people from, I think it was number 5 to number 3 to solve our problems.
Thank you, Trustee Gracia.
That's very generous of you, David. I will say that I'm not surprised that my area has lost population, because it is a neighborhood with a lot of second homes, vacation homes that have been bought and turned into vacation rentals. An apartment, a 12-unit apartment that was turned into a bed and breakfast and a law office. So you do that over 10 years, and it does result in a real population shift.
I also, I also have a follow-up comment to a few of our public commenters, and it's regarding the new development in American Canyon, which happens to be in Area 2, my area. And there are going to be at least 1,200 homes going up there. Usually in American Canyon, we do have more kids per household than you see up in Napa. So I would be in favor of adjusting the number for at least Area 2 to account for that. And ground has broken. So that development is going to be built definitely within the next couple of years.
Thank you. Were you going to make one last comment there, Trustee Water?
Well, I was going to say that it was nice that people called in and praised Trustees Reiser and Chu, because I know that you're down there all the time. I'm hearing, and I'm glad people appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Okay, student board rep, just checking in. We're good? Okay. All right. So thank you to our presenters and for everybody who's commented tonight. We're now going to move to our next agenda item, which is the public hearing. And this is the petition to establish Mayacamas Charter Middle School. This is a public hearing to consider the level of support for the petition to establish a new charter school named Mayacamas Charter Middle School. The Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Trustees will hold a public hearing to consider the level of support for the petition to establish Mayacamas Charter Middle School. The district received Mayacamas Charter Middle School charter petition on September 15, 2021. California Education Code Section 47605 requires that within 60 days after receiving a petition, the district shall hold a public hearing on the provisions of the charter, at which time the governing board shall consider the level of support for the petition by teachers employed by the district, other employees of the district, and parents. I will now open our public hearing. Having opened it now, Mr. Michaels, if you could please cue the first speaker.
Yes, first speaker is Brian Gardner. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Gonzalez-Mares, NVUSD Board of Trustees, Student Board Trustee, Dr. Missetti, Assistant Superintendents, and fellow community members for the opportunity to speak tonight. I have read the petition of the Mayacamas Charter Middle School, and I am here tonight to speak out against the approval of this petition. Over the past few years, the district and the community have had to make very difficult decisions in order to continue providing high-quality educational programming at NVUSD schools, and to provide well-needed resources to schools that have a high proportion of economically disadvantaged students, English learners, foster youth, and students with disabilities. These resources include robust social emotional programming, culturally responsive training, AVID training, counselors, social workers, English learner services, and academic interventionists, to name just a few of the valuable resources needed to meet the diverse needs of our students. On page 145 of the petition, it claims that MCMS will give preference to students who reside in the attendance area of Shear Elementary School, and that MCMS will provide the necessary programming such as what I've just referred to. However, I have serious concerns that they can provide these well-needed supports for our most vulnerable students. The charter would cause financial hardship not only to the students they seek to serve in Shear's attendance area, but to all NVUSD students and families, particularly English learners, students with disabilities, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Furthermore, this petition states in their criteria on page 19, item 7A, that their charter would not substantially undermine existing services, academic offerings, or programmatic offerings. This is incorrect, resulting in the criteria of not being met. Item 7B of the proposed charter school would duplicate a program currently offered within NVUSD, and the existing program has sufficient capacity for the students proposed to be served within reasonable proximity to the charter school. We have already a comprehensive middle school that qualifies, Silverado Middle School, and meets the needs of students already enrolled in NVUSD. Additionally, this would have a negative financial impact on the current development of a K-8 model at Shear, which seeks to provide this option for all NVUSD families. Again, I believe the board should not approve this proposal, as it will be detrimental to our most vulnerable students and families who deserve our very best in providing equitable access to a high-quality education, preparing them to be successful and productive members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Lauren Daly. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. My name is Lauren Daly, and I'm one of the lead petitioners for Mayacamas Charter Middle School. We need MCMS in our community. Since we started this endeavor, we've received many emails from parents and grandparents expressing relief at the notion of this school and wanting to know how to register. While the current middle school options are likely great for a large number of students, there are clearly families who need the Mayacamas option. Many have said that this is their last hope for remaining in public school in Napa. Much has been made about the establishment of MCMS, that it would take funds away from the district. We've seen threats of teacher layoffs, program reductions, and even references to cutting music programs. But the district is already doing these things, and MCMS is not the cause. For months, we've heard that declining enrollment is the source of all problems within the district. A shrinking of the public school cohort due to the cost of living in Napa, a shrinking birth rate in the state of California, and other factors that impact enrollment now and are projected to impact enrollment well into the future. However, while the public schools in Napa are losing students, the private schools in Napa are growing. The private schools in Napa are growing because many families no longer believe that it is in their best interest to send their students to public schools in Napa. According to the California Department of Education private school affidavit database, the total number of students within NVUSD enrolled in private or home schools has grown 19% between the 2018 and 2020 school years, 19%. The numbers for 2021 are not yet available, but we already heard in a board meeting earlier this fall that over 150 students did not show up to an NVUSD school on the first day of the 2021 school year. Statewide, private school enrollment has remained relatively flat for the same period, and it's well below the private school rate in Napa. Mayacamas would serve as a bridge to public high schools within Napa. The private middle schools in Napa now largely feed private high schools. Students who leave the district at the middle or elementary school level generally do not return, and with them goes years of state funding. A small public charter middle school option would keep students in the district. That is healthy for NVUSD, and it's healthy for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Jen Cole. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good evening. Dr. Missetti, President Gonzalez-Mares, NVUSD board members, student board member, district administrators, and fellow community members. I am Jennifer Cole, the proud principal of Silverado Middle School. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I have carefully read the petition. I'm here tonight to speak out against the approval. Outside of families, schools provide the most important set of relationships for our adolescents. Warm, caring, sensitive, and supportive teachers are committed to the students of NVUSD. Each of our middle schools builds community in every single class via positive behavior interventions and supports, PBIS, restorative practices, growth mindset work, and advisory classes utilizing second step curriculum aligned with CASEL's research and strategies. This is, in fact, as the petition states on page 39, the gold standard. Each and every day, our teachers create the positive and caring cultures that exist on our comprehensive middle school campuses. In a time when divisiveness runs rampant through our society, it is more important than ever to come together and invest in our schools. Approving the petition for this charter school will most certainly divide us and harm our existing school communities. It's my firmest belief as an educator in NVUSD for the past 23 years that schooling should be free from barriers and obstacles, and that schools should bring communities together. We've been faced with many challenges these past few years. I'm proud to lead a school where we listen to one another and respond as a team to whatever hardships we encounter. I'm proud to be part of the district that does the same. We have had to make tough decisions, but we've made them together and in service of our students. Investing in our current middle schools is critical to our ongoing improvement and success. We just decided to close River and Harvest, and now we're being asked to support a charter which will significantly undermine our existing services, academic offerings, and programs. Losing 335 students means we will lay off 12 to 14 middle school teachers. That's about 9% of our middle school teaching staff. This is a significant impact any way you look at it. It will negatively impact our academic and our elective programs any way you look at it. We have the capacity to support all NVUSD students in our middle school program. Therefore, the criteria for approval of this petition has not been met. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is John Burns. Go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm John Burns. I'm a teacher at Redwood Middle School. I called in, first of all, to say that I have great respect and often love for many of the people that are supporting Maya Kamas. But I hope maybe you had listened to my colleagues, Betsy Witt and Chuck Tracel, who did a wonderful presentation on how our middle schools are really where the children of our community come together. And I would say to any parent who knows me, and some of these parents, I believe, have had me as their children have had me as a teacher. I hope you would understand that in my heart, I would hope you would want to come to Redwood. And I want to say, frankly, I haven't read your charter. I'm quite busy and working so hard for the children of Napa. And I would love your children to come to my school. And that's all I want to say tonight.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Gail Young. Go ahead.
Hello, Board of Trustees, Dr. Missetti, and our community members. My name is Gail Young. I am president of Napa Valley Educators Association. As an association, it's an association that represents Napa Valley Unified School District teachers, nurses, and counselors, and believes in the accountability and oversight of public education. I ask you not to approve this charter petition. The impact of this charter, if it's approved on our district, is detrimental to both the employees and the programs that are in place for our students. To be clear, this is not the same kind of charter that was once NVLA or River. This is an independent charter, not dependent. It does not use district employees, and in fact will create additional layoffs of our teachers, counselors, and nurses, as well as our classified staff. NVUSD has excellent teachers who provide innovative instruction within fresh and current instructional programs. The Maya Kamas Charter petition, I believe, was developed with the best of intentions. However, it falls short. An analysis done by In the Public Interest, there is not a viable plan for enrolling and supporting English learners at the level the petition specifies. At least 18 sections of this charter petition were written for students in another district. The plan for serving students with disabilities is insufficient. The budget is not sound. Because of these things, NVEA has started a petition to deny this charter. It currently has well over 100 signatures, and we believe there will be many more. Our schools are well-developed programs based on our community. Please deny this charter petition and protect the oversight of public education and our workforce. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Kim Smith. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking comment today on this. I'm a resident of Napa and a parent of 2 students in NVUSD. I'm here to ask you to approve the Maya Kamas Charter Middle School. As a community, it's not debatable that we expressed a desire to have a school much like Maya Kamas Middle School. In fact, there was a wait list at River. One of my daughters is a student there now, and another is an alum. There are features, being a smaller school like River is, where parents and students and teachers have chosen proactively to work together on a model they believe in together that includes an emphasis on SEL to a greater degree than the other middle schools, and that provides a smaller school, which the research on adolescent development shows is particularly important at the middle school age as children are individuating and creating their own sense of identity. I think it's a shame that the district chose to close that school. But once they did, what they said is they don't care about parent desires, actually. And to now hear people say that we don't need a school like that flies in the face of information that's readily available through those wait lists. What I particularly like about the Maya Chemist Charter proposal as an educator is, in addition to being a smaller school and a school of choice where people, parents and educators and students can come together intentionally, it's also going to provide a personalized learning approach and be a feeder for the new tech system, which Napa Unified does not provide either of. So in addition to meeting existing needs that were demonstrated by parents, it's also creating an additional opportunity for students and parents' needs to be met in a way the district is not able to do. I'm disappointed in the people who are talking about layoffs related to this school, because in fact, if children and parents make the choice to move their child to a charter school, teachers for those students will also have jobs at that charter school. So it's not the case that teachers' jobs will go away. It's the case that those jobs might move from being a district employee to a charter school employee. And I respect teachers and educators' ability to make effective choices for where they want to work, and don't think it's your job as a board to protect employees working for the district as opposed to working for the community. So I would ask you as board members to live up to your role as trustees to represent the whole community, and not to think of your job as protecting a jobs program for district employees. Educators work hard, I respect that, and I respect them equally, whether they choose to work for the district or for a charter school. I urge you to support the Maya Chemist Middle School Charter petition. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Michael Alger. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Missetti, board members, public. We've heard on both sides of this issue, whether we should open a charter school having some benefits or having some negative consequences. But I'd like to point out what seems to be a glaring elephant in the room. The decision to use the St. John the Baptist School as the location for the charter school is in fact a violation of the Establishment Clause of the U.S. Constitution. While the U.S. Department of Education does allow schools to use religious buildings under some circumstances, they have ruled in the past that even holding a graduation ceremony at a church was a pervasively religious environment holding a captive audience. The students at this public school would be captive audiences in an overtly religious environment. They would literally play in the shadow of a cross during recess. They would go to a building that has 100 years of history as a Catholic school. They would go to school right next to a Catholic church. For these reasons, and these reasons alone, the charter cannot be approved at this time until, at the very least, an alternative location has been found. During that time, it would be great if some of these other concerns were sorted out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Genevieve DiGiulio. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm not opposed to the concept of innovation, as most teachers strive every year to present curricula in new and fresh ways. I am opposed to this current proposal for 3 reasons. First is the question of innovation. According to the California Department of Education page on charter schools, 2 criteria for approving an independent charter include encourage the use of different and innovative teaching methods and providing parents and pupils with expanded choices in the types of educational opportunities that are available within the public school system. My concern or my question is, where is the innovation? Because the proposed school has listed the same materials adopted by our district, and it includes the same socio-emotional learning second step program that we do. We have a plethora of schedules in NVUSD. We have never stagnated. We have adopted various teaching materials as well.
It's expanding our definition of 21st century skills. We provide ALPS, AVID, Migrant Ed, Seal of Biliteracy, Dual Immersion, to name a few. Our wellness program is robust and expands beyond the Wellness Center and is visible in every classroom, where teachers build into their day opportunities for children to be recognized, respected, and visible. And lastly, I'm concerned about the ELD program. The third criteria was by the California Department of Ed, states that an increased learning opportunities for all pupils, with specific emphasis on expanding learning experiences for pupils who are identified as low achieving. I'm concerned that the current model isn't structured to truly include a diverse population, first of all, aside from students residing within a walking distance. And then how is this plan innovative in assuming all can attend? In addition, the lack of an initial EL coordinator who reinforces support with both designated and integrated ELD would cause an issue for at least 2 years. And lastly, the fact that the explicit designated ELD instruction would be offered during the learning lab block would cause a loss for the extra support for EL students' core classes. So it is my opinion that in order for us to maintain the support of our district, we have a replication of services. The verbiage is from a school in LA County. It doesn't reflect innovation or a strategic plan that supports our diverse students and families' needs. And I urge you to oppose this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Miriam. Go ahead, please.
Yes, hi. I'm speaking on behalf as a River parent, a current River parent, and a former Mount George parent. Therefore, I'm calling in support for approval of the Mayacamas Middle School. You stated a lot during the middle school information night about having educational options and how important that was for our community. And as a parent who has been impacted numerous times now, I'm telling you that I need this as an option. I am one of those parents that will most likely leave this district if I'm not given an option, because I'm looking for something that is not currently offered. I have toured both Silverado and Redwood. I am not interested in a dual immersion program. I love the idea of project-based learning in a smaller environment that teaches my daughter to have a voice, teaches her to speak up for herself the way she has been doing so. Electives are also key in terms of a balanced educational experience. I'm here as a parent that is making a personal plea for my daughter, so that you'll approve this charter application so that she will feel once again supported by her school district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Patrick Malaret. Go ahead.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Patrick Malaret, and I'm a teacher at American Canyon Middle School and have been for 8 years now. As an educator, I feel the need to speak out against the petition to establish the Mayacamas Charter Middle School. NVUSD is already experiencing declining enrollment, so opening an independent charter at this time will simply compound the issues the district faces and jeopardize the hard work that has been done so far to move us towards financial stability. This will cause a ripple effect that will negatively impact all NVUSD schools, not just the ones that students unenroll from. Furthermore, the petition, while perhaps crafted with good intentions, in its current form suffers from several educational and organizational flaws. So not only will it hurt NVUSD as a whole, but I have concerns that the charter school, if opened, would not serve its students well. The petition is full of copy and pasted, cookie cutter, general language that is nearly identical to a charter submitted in LA County. This is likely because a corporation, XED, was paid to work on this charter. Frankly, the company should be ashamed of itself for taking the money, goodwill, and hopes of the Napa community and assembling such a poor product. The section of the petition addressing plans for English learners is insufficient, given that a significant portion of the anticipated students will be English learners. On page 63 of the petition, it is stated that there will not be a full-time English learner coordinator hired until year 3. It is the expectation that the head of schools will manage those duties for the first 2 years, in addition to their regular duties, opening a brand new school, and additional responsibilities pertaining to foster and homeless youth. Anyone who has been through LPAC testing, the redesignation process, or working with ELD knows that that's probably not a wise decision. The section addressing special education programming is also copy and pasted from the Compton Charter, and they didn't even bother to fix all of their localized language. Page 97 of the petition quite literally suggests applying to the Los Angeles County Office of Education, SELPA. This petition has not been sufficiently tailored and customized to the Napa Valley community. Again, shame on XED. Finally, I think that the public should be aware that the petition details that the governing board of this charter school would be self-elected without input from parents or educators necessary. Furthermore, if you look at page 115 of the petition, the founding board members and their current areas of expertise are listed. None of the 5 founding members claim to have expertise in education. The closest experience you'll find is curriculum development. I understand the frustration the community is feeling over budget cuts, and I really do empathize with the desire to have excellent and innovative academic programs. I teach in American Canyon, a wonderful, vibrant place with strong schools. And we have been negatively impacted by budget cuts the last few years as well. I know of excellent teachers who have been cut, excellent programs that have been cut. However, as an educator and someone who cares deeply for the community that I serve, I believe the petition for the Maya Kamas Charter School in its current form will create a school that is not set up for success and will ultimately hurt students across the district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Corey Penrose. Go ahead.
Hello, board. My name is Corey Penrose. I'm a classroom teacher and I live in Vallejo. And when I heard there was a charter application coming in Napa, I wanted to call in and share my experiences with the board and urge you to not approve this. You've already heard about the many instructional shortcomings. You've already heard about the replication of services. You've already heard about the boilerplate language. These were all things which I heard when charter schools came to Vallejo, independent charter schools. They all promised that they weren't going to compete with the public schools in my community. They are. They all promised they wouldn't take money out of schools in my community. They are. They all promised that they would work with schools. They don't. They compete. This is a private company that is looking to come in and make money off of the community that they purport to serve. Please vote this down. Vallejo's public schools have been decimated and have lost millions of dollars as a result of schools just like this one. Please don't allow the bad educational practices in Vallejo to come into Napa and decimate another robust educational community. Vote no. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Pepperwood. Go ahead.
Good evening, staff, trustees, and board. My name is Tasha Commandant. I'm a resident of Napa and an NVUSD parent of 2 7th graders. And I'm speaking up to express my strong support for the Maya Kamas Middle School Charter. My children and generations of children have thrived under the social, emotional, and project-based learning model that has been provided. And we believe that 2 current large middle school options don't meet the needs of all students who thrive in smaller, less traditional settings. So providing an option for students and parents of a school that can tailor the education to the needs of individual students is important for the health of our whole school district and our entire community. And so in reviewing the charter, we believe it satisfies the intent and the legal requirements of the Charter School Act. So I encourage you to support this well thought out petition that is filling a critical need for the kids and families in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Zacklad family. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening once again. This is Sylvia Regalado Zacklad, and I served on the middle school redesign task force that had the very difficult decision to make the recommendation to close down Harvest based on all of the financial information that we were presented. And given all of the trending data that was given to us with regards to declining enrollment and how that was impacting programs for our current middle schoolers and future middle schoolers. I want to speak out tonight and say that while I understand the desire of the Mayacamas community to put this charter forward, it is not a smart thing for us to do for the benefit of all of the future generations of the Napa Unified School District's children. We made the decision because we wanted to preserve programming. We wanted to create quality educational programming for all of the students. And we thank the River community for exposing us during the process to social emotional learning, because we now have that in all of our schools. And I think that's wonderful. And instead, I would invite all of the parents to continue to share their time, treasure, and talent and experience with what was important at River, to continue to funnel that into our middle school students and into our elementary schools as well, because all of our kids will benefit from that. They're benefiting now as the district has begun to implement that new programming, and it will continue to go into the future. And I think that approving a charter school within our district will not help us reach the quality of education that we want for all of our children, but it will really water it down. And so humbly, I ask you to please deny the application for the charter. And I invite all of those parents to please come and continue to be part of the district in a way that furthers education and experiences. All of our kids will benefit as a result of it, and all of our kids would thrive in smaller communities. But we live in a much larger global world. And if we begin to expose our children to that now, it will be a much better future and transition for them in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Maureen Thunison. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. For more than 20 years, River Middle School provided parents an option that focused on strong social emotional learning in a project-based format in a small school environment. This curriculum proves to be so valued by the community that each year students were waitlisted due to the high demand. Rather than celebrate and support this school, NVUSD has chosen to close the school, despite the fact that it was based on evidence, scientifically validated best practices. As recently as this year, River was voted best middle school by the Napa Valley Register. This seems to be a clear case of NVUSD telling the community what they need rather than listening to what they want. The so-called task force convened in the depths of the pandemic only included 3 River parents. It was not sufficient community input. Not listening to the kids and their parents is exactly why many charter schools start. When a district cannot or will not meet the needs of the community will organize and create a charter school. This has now occurred here in Napa. Concerned members of our community created this charter school due to the lack of responsiveness from this board. The concept is simple: continue to provide the choice that was so popular with parents and students for decades in Napa. Let the kids continue to have the choice to learn and thrive in the educational environments that suit them best. The school was designed with best practices that are available based in science and research. Project-based learning, social emotional learning, a team's approach with curricular looping and first period advisory, a later start time, an individualized IEP, and many, many more things, such as ongoing professional development for teachers, enrichment, PE, music, and arts, and more importantly, the New Tech Network, which would provide a pathway to a very successful high school here. Ultimately, the closure of one of the most popular middle school programs is leaving Napa Valley poorer in academic strategies that actually work. This is the opportunity to engage the community left for private schools and prove that educational innovation and excellence is not lost in Napa's public schools. Every single district in California, except for 5 rural school districts, has charter schools who pilot new programs and start programs that fill the voids the public schools are not serving. Napa has only 1 independent charter, and it's very exclusionary. And then it's only accessible to kindergartners. The same is true of the DLI programs. Napa must offer alternatives at this critical developmental stage, and Maya Kamas is the answer. The children of this community deserve the best educational outcomes possible. Thank you for hearing me speak.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Darylyn Christensen. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time. My name is Darylyn Christensen. I am the president of the parent club at Silverado Middle School. I am a proud Silverado Don and have had a graduate of Silverado Middle School and currently have a student there in 6th grade. I have read the petition and I'm speaking on behalf of the Silverado Parent Club, and we do not support this petition, mainly because having just closed 2 schools and on the heels coming with nothing new in terms of learning outcomes, knowledge and thinking, written and oral communication, collaboration, and agency. This is an existing program that thrives in our 2 middle schools. Our 2 middle schools should receive all the attention and resources given the percentage of English learners and socioeconomical disadvantaged students that we serve. We would welcome all of these students at Silverado Middle School and Redwood. We, as a parent club supporting Silverado's many different programs, feel very responsible on making sure that our students have every opportunity to learn based on their needs. The correlation also between private school enrollment and folks leaving the district isn't really accurate. Those private schools, certain private schools, many of them which are in Napa, are actually overcrowded classes and filled to the brim because they had their students going to school full time when we were half time or not in session. I would like to say that on behalf of the parent club at Silverado Middle School, we would like to welcome these students, and we would like the board to not support this petition. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Mike Wilmarth. Go ahead.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the charter petition. As a middle school teacher here in Napa, and I've had the good fortune to teach middle school here for 20 years, daily I see teachers who are addressing the needs of a wide variety of students. There was a charter proponent earlier who said that kids come in all shapes and sizes, and maybe the public education doesn't fit them all. I would challenge you to spend a good deal of time at one of the traditional middle schools and see the variety of kids we serve and the ways that they are allowed to grow and flourish and become who they are, and to certainly have a voice. We understand the need for smaller environments, which is why at our middle schools, we have adopted a model of teaming, and we create mini schools within the big school. We just finished conferences, and it's refreshing to have the same group of teachers all talking to parents about their children, teachers who constantly have those conversations in the hallways and in the staff rooms about how kids are doing. So I think really that the petition represents a solution that's looking for a problem that doesn't exist. Another speaker talked about the fact that the board agenda, the school board should not exist to provide jobs for the adults. I could not agree more. I feel very proud to have worked for the district for 30 years, again, 20 of those at middle school, but I never felt like it was the board's opportunity to give me employment. I do feel it's the board's responsibility to make sure that all students are served. And any situation that takes public funds and places them in a private setting, which is really what an independent charter is, takes those funds away from all students and directs them just to the needs of a few students. So I would ask the board to consider that as you look at what your role is. One last thing I would ask you to consider is, as a taxpayer, because I also have, living here in Napa, I pay taxes. My taxes help fund the schools. They funded them when my children were very successful in the public schools, and they fund now, even though my children have moved on. I have an opportunity for some oversight of those funds by electing school board members. If you choose to send my tax dollars off to an independent charter, I lose all of that opportunity to hold someone accountable for the decisions that are made regarding how those funds are spent. And I think a number of taxpayers would agree, we like the opportunity to select school board members who we feel carry out what we see as good for students. We wouldn't like the idea of our money going somewhere that has no public accountability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Wendy Beltrami.
Good evening. My name is Wendy Beltrami. I'm here to speak in favor of granting charter status to the Mayacamas Charter School. I'm an employee of NVUSD in my 20th year at River Middle School. It is no secret that Mayacamas was born as a result of the impending closure of River School. Their proposed model is inspired by many of River School's guiding principles and core values. This charter petition should come as no surprise to anyone who paid attention to the continued growth, popularity, and success of River School over the past 28 years. After the announcement of River's June 2022 closure, 41 families left our school and left NVUSD for private schools here in Napa. When that data was provided to district administration, the response was, that's micro data. You have to look at macro data to understand why closing River and Harvest was necessary. Unfortunately, the district's tunnel vision prevented them from recognizing that declining enrollment would only be exacerbated by closing River. That micro data was important. River is being eliminated, but the need for our model remains. With the closure of River, there is an unmet need in NVUSD that Mayacamas is ready to fill. I would also like families listening tonight to know that union leadership and the California Teachers Association have urged our NVUSD teachers to use union-provided talking points during conferences with parents this week, insinuating that Mayacamas charter is a threat to students and teachers. Charter schools in Napa have successfully served students in our community for nearly 3 decades. These baseless claims perpetuated unethically by union leaders are a shameful representation of the integrity of the NVEA body. District administration has recently stated, we are all about options. Well, actions speak louder than words. Providing Napa families another option in the form of Mayacamas charter would go a long way towards showing that our board is listening to its constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Hector Gallegos. Go ahead.
We're not hearing anything, Mr. Michaels?
Yeah. Could you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hector Gallegos, representing CSEA. I'm the chapter president. We are currently not in favor of the Mayacamas charter. As we all know, declining enrollment is in full effect, and losing roughly, I don't know, I want to say 180 to 200 students in the near future is not good for the classified staff. So we currently, or we're not, in favor of the Mayacamas charter school. And thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Courtney Garcia. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. Hello, I'm Courtney Garcia, an NVUSD elementary teacher and the chief negotiator of the Napa Valley Educators Association. I'd like to address the board over my concerns of this independent charter petition. I have grave concern over a petition that was plagiarized from a Southern California charter that has been surrounded by their own legal distress. I understand that this group of parents are advocating for their children's education and claim to be advocating for the students of the Napa Valley. However, I wonder why this group feels the need to create an exclusive school instead of working with the district to ensure all students in NVUSD have access to what they are calling unique programming. It reminds me of the parents that advocated for better school lunches for their children. They didn't try to improve the lunches just at their child's school. They truly advocated for all students in NVUSD. Now, all students in NVUSD benefit from having higher quality lunches. I wonder what exactly is the motive behind this group to create an exclusive and segregated school that would harm the rest of the students in NVUSD and only increase the opportunity gap. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Anthony P. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for your time. I am a student and I'd like to speak in support of the Mayacamas Charter School. I find it a pretty glaring conflict of interest that almost all of the opponents to the charter are members of the school district and the proponents are parents themselves. I believe in order to have a true diversity in education or diverse educational system, there needs to be charter schools. And as you are closing them, there needs to be that option for parents. As a future parent, someone who wishes to have kids, I can almost totally say that I would probably not enroll my kids into the public schools. I have been through them. I have been to many. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. The education system needs to be reformed in total. And these small learning charter schools are beneficial for the parents that have a limited voice, because as was said before, you see them as a microcause, when really that microcause equals minority. So you need to have this charter school because it represents diversity in education. It represents diversity in education. And it is an important system in a town, especially in a city like Napa. It is an important part of education for students and parents who want their kids to go to schools such as charter schools. So if you choose to deny this, it is just a glaring conflict of interest and a blatant slap in the face to parents who care about their children's education. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Karina Cervente. Go ahead.
Good evening, NVUSD board members, once again, superintendent and staff. Thank you for all your time and efforts this school year. My name is Karina Cervente from American Canyon, parent of a current American Canyon Middle School student. I'm here to express my disagreement over the Mayacamas Charter Middle School proposal. When I read the proposal, the first thing that came to my mind was the millions of dollars asked to be diverted to their project, leaving a void for the other schools in the district that really need funding or in need of repairs. I was baffled that after the construction of the second middle school in American Canyon was halted due to decline in enrollment, you're being asked to start a brand new charter school, putting the tab on us taxpayers. I find it inequitable and unfair for so many families that don't have the means to commute to such school or wouldn't be able to benefit from this school, trickling down to all the schools in our district negatively. American Canyon Middle School continues to thrive with our strong project-based learning and all the electives provided to students. To name a few award-winning music programs that include band, strings, and choir, an award-winning robotics program, theater, art, AVID, languages such as Mandarin and Spanish, along with an amazing wellness center that provides great social emotional resources to all students, will directly be impacted by taking funding away from those programs to give to so few others. The almost $3 million will be better used to continue the work you have asked our superintendent to bring equality to the Napa Valley District. We have been working really hard in getting all our middle schools to have the same opportunities. Letting the Maya Camas Charter School use public funding to start a middle school that will only serve a small number of students will be irresponsible funding management. I cannot emphasize the inequality for the less deserving families, students with IEPs, English learners, etc. It seems St. John's was closed due to declining enrollment. If St. John's or out-of-town corporations want to restart a charter school, perhaps they can do it with private money. I ask the board members to continue to be fiscally responsible and to continue the work of being inclusive and vote no on Maya Camas. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Brian Beggs. Go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to talk tonight. I'm Brian Beggs, the music teacher over at Silverado Middle School, and I'm asking the board to not approve the petition to establish Maya Camas Charter Middle School, mostly because regarding the performing and visual arts, especially music, on page 19, the petition does not meet section B of criteria 7, because the music program and course offerings they propose on page 75 and 76 are already offered at the NVUSD middle schools. The music program outline and the teaching methods described in the petition reflect, again, what is currently offered at the NVUSD middle schools, including Redwood and Silverado. The petition also does not meet criteria number 7, section A, because offering a comprehensive music program at Maya Camas would negatively impact enrollment in the music classes that already exist at Redwood and Silverado. Losing music students to Maya Camas would negatively impact the quality of the music programs at both Redwood and Silverado, and having fewer students in the programs at Redwood and Silverado would prevent students in the music programs from reaching their full potential for many technical musical reasons. Also, both section A and section B of criteria 7 are not met when considering the other performing arts or visual arts programs that, again, are currently already offered at both Redwood and Silverado. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Marianne Christofferson. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Missetti, President Gonzalez Mares, Board of Trustees, Student Board Member, District Administrator, and fellow community members. I'm Mary Ann Christopherson, Principal of Redwood Middle School. I'm here to speak out against the Maya Kamas Independent Charter petition. On October 26th, we presented to the community the vision of Napa Valley Unified School District Middle Schools, which is to provide an inclusive, equitable, responsive, restorative, and rigorous education where students have a sense of belonging. Students are encouraged to discover who they are and learn to advocate and contribute within a high-quality educational environment. This work was done in collaboration and partnership with all middle schools in our district, including River, Harvest, Onitos, Silverado, Redwood, American Canyon Middle, students, parents, and staff. Our comprehensive middle schools have the following core elements. All students will have time built into their schedule that is focused on building community, social emotional development, and connection to adults and peers. All students will have integrated and designated social emotional learning. All students will have equitable access to programming such as music, art, and other electives. All sites will facilitate opportunities for small learning communities that provide a safe, inclusive, and responsive learning environment. And all sites will benefit from professional learning around equitable and effective grading practices. Our NVUSD middle schools have amazing programs and offerings for our students. The Maya Kamas Charter Middle School states that they are highly confident that they will be able to meet and exceed benchmark in the first year of state assessments, as stated on page 14 of the petition. However, this is highly unlikely because it takes time to implement protocols, processes to get a new school up and running smoothly and efficiently. The cost to train and use New Tech Network, PD, MTSS, one-to-one technology, site technology network, PBL, PRBL, ILP, SLC, SEL, IEP, and assessments are unfeasible as stated in the petition, making it unsustainable, inequitable, resulting in the criteria claimed to have been met on pages 18 and 19 of the petition is actually, in actuality, have not been met according to the California Education Code, making this petition not viable or approvable. I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. Please vote no on this charter. It will not be good for all kids in NVUSD. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Dee Wheeler. Go ahead.
Hello. As an NVUSD parent of a child in middle school and one going into middle school next year, I would like to voice my support to approve the Maya Kamas Charter Middle School petition. My husband and I moved to Napa in 2009. We had many other options and choices of where we could raise our children, but being from Oakland, we were very familiar with Napa and loved it, and thought it would be a wonderful place to raise a family. Since then, we've survived a major earthquake, catastrophic wildfires, and now a global pandemic. Through it all, we've repeatedly watched the resilient Napa Valley community pick itself up and rebuild many times over, not just because our community has to, but because our community genuinely loves and values Napa. We want what's best for Napa and everyone in it. Maya Kamas Charter Middle School reflects those values too. Right now, Napa public schools are dealing with a crisis. I and many others understand that, especially community members with children. But closing schools and taking away alternative educational options for the majority of Napa children is not an option. It is only making it worse. In the last few years, so many parents have been moving their children to other school districts or enrolling their children in private schools, even people whose grandparents moved to or were raised in Napa and whose families have been attending Napa public schools for generations. Many of these families still work and live in Napa. It's not just COVID or the cost of living or housing, which is still low compared to many other counties in the Bay Area. It's the fact that many people are just plain unhappy with the district right now and how it's going about solving its problems. A healthy and positive school district should be able to work with its community and parents to listen to their needs, not just tell them what their needs should be or are. Many in the Napa community feel the district is not doing this, and not just current parents of NVUSD. People who have lived here for decades with their own children and grandchildren are highly aware of it, especially when considering schools here. That is a crisis in itself. In the state of California, Napa County has had one of the highest increased percentages over the last few years of students leaving the district for other education options. The district understands this. A district approval and affiliation with Mayacamas Charter Middle School would help keep parents and children in the district and give greater incentive to non-local parents to move to our community. It would also show our community that diversity and choice matters, and most importantly, that every single one of our children matters, regardless of race, social status, orientation, or ability. Children are the district's greatest asset, and not just financially. If approved, NVUSD would have a new outstanding public middle school option in the district, and a positive collaboration effort between Mayacamas and NVUSD would only validate all the influential changes the district is trying to make in the Napa community for a better future. Mayacamas is much needed and an incredible educational opportunity for every current or prospective public middle school student in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Dan Lintz. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. I am here to represent the approval of the new school, Mayacamas. I am a former parent of a middle schooler at River. I was on the Parents Association that voted to move River into the school district on the promise that it would be carried on with a multi-decade tradition, and I'm disappointed that that didn't happen. We moved into the district in order to fund the growth of the school. At that current time, we were turning away hundreds of kids who wanted to take advantage of project-based learning and all the other benefits that the school offered. The first year that we were in the new school, enrollment increased 25%. There is a huge demonstrated need and desire by this community to replace River. The ending of River by the district was short-sighted and did not take into account the need of what this community wants. River was a school that was a model for other schools in this country that people came to copy, and to summarily dismiss that success and to insinuate that that will be replaced in the other schools, I really find hard to believe. So there is a demonstrated need for this. I hear tonight, not from teachers that think there's a problem with the instruction that's going to happen there necessarily. I hear talking points from the union in order to protect jobs that they could take at the new school. And if you talk to the teachers that worked at River, they loved it. They worked there for years because it was such a positive place to be. It's in the interest of the students to keep this school, for the teachers to approve it, and not to worry about the money leaving the district. It's not leaving Napa Valley. It's going to another school that meets the needs of people that maybe have dyslexia or social needs that need that kind of educational environment. I'm very pleased to hear Wendy stand up for the school. That was incredibly brave, understanding the pressure from the union she must face to do something like that. I don't believe that this charter should be disapproved because of these minor points. It is a huge need for this community, and to summarily dismiss it from teachers, they should be ashamed of that. It's just a union grab for money, and they have made a mistake, the school board, to get rid of River, and this is an opportunity to correct that mistake and should approve the Mayacamas Middle School.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Nicole Clancy. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Nikki Clancy, and I support the Mayacamas charter option. I'm going to keep it short because I know there's a lot of speakers. A smaller school that's social, emotional, project-based. It's something that will in fact bridge the gap for our Napa educational community. It'll keep kids in the district at the high school level rather than losing them completely to private schools. And for the record, Supporting my Camus doesn't mean that parents think that Redwood, Silverado, American Canyon, or Unidos are bad schools. I hear a lot of really great things from my friends who have kids that go to these schools, but it does mean that we value the option of this charter school. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Jerry Eaton. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good evening, Superintendent Missetti, Board of Trustees, educators, and community members. My name is Jerry Eaton, and I'm a CTA board member. And I guess first thing I wanted to clear up is that the California Teachers Association supports charter schools. We support dependent charter schools that provide the education that our students deserve. What we have struggled with are for-profit charters, which is what we're talking about tonight. And board members and Superintendent Missetti, and thank you in advance for all the work that your staff is doing, reading the petition. And it's a very laborious process, and we all appreciate you making that effort to thoroughly examine it. This petition is not unlike other for-profit charter petitions where they just cut and paste from other, and shame on the consultants who actually did that, rather than take the time to come to the community and learn about the community and really investigate the needs of the community and try to create something that would be of value to the community and to the educators and to the students and parents. They threw together something from another district and are presenting it as their own ideas. And so that's kind of sad. And let's not confuse dependent charters, which is again what we support because that's a part of the school district, versus independent charters. The education that everyone is seeking, differentiated instruction, project-based learning, individual time with students, that exists already in the other public schools in Napa Valley Unified District. And my hope is that the board and the parents and the community will come together and realize, let's support those schools and use our time, efforts, and money to make sure that we make the schools, the great schools that Napa Valley Unified School District already has, even greater. I urge you, please, not to support and vote no on this charter petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. We have reached our 2-hour mark where the board takes a brief break, and we will do that now and return for comment. So we'll be right back. Thank you. Right, great. Thank you, everybody, for the bathroom break and stretch my back a bit. Okay, we are continuing with public comment. So Mr. Michaels, if you could cue in our next speaker.
Yes, of course. The next speaker is Michelle Dixon. Go ahead, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I am Michelle Dixon. I appreciate the time here today. Thank you all for allowing this public comment period. I am a parent that lives here in the Napa city, and my child attends River currently as a 6th grader. I just wanted to call in and voice my support for this new charter school. My son has been, as many of the kids in this district, been put a bit through the ringer. He attended Yountville Elementary School, which was an excellent, wonderful school that was based on the project-based learning model, as well as part of the New Tech Network. That school was closed. He was moved over to Willow, which was a great school, but of course, not the program that we originally signed him up for. We were thrilled when he was admitted into River, knowing that it would be the example of an education that we had wanted for him: a small school, project-based learning, a holistic way of looking at education, a way that offered something different, learning to work together to problem solve, integrating art, music, cooking, science, theater, math into this well-rounded education that frankly is something I never got to have, because as a child, the schools in California were all built along the same lines as NVUSD is seeming to head: rote memorization and a strict curriculum based on, well, I'm not going to get into that, but basically our district used to be this place I was excited for my children to be. I have a younger child that is going to be entering kindergarten next year, and I am currently extremely hesitant to place her in any of the district schools, knowing how that has gone for the past 4 years of my son Marco's school life. Should this charter not be approved, we are seriously looking at either moving out of this area or applying for enrollment at Blue Oak at unfortunately great expense that we can't necessarily afford, hence why our children attend public school to begin with. We talk a lot about losing enrollment if a charter is opened, but the facts are that with the schools continually being shut down and parents losing opportunities to place our kids in schools that offer their children the education they need, the education they want, the education they frankly deserve, these families were going to leave anyway. We have Stonebridge, St. A's, Blue Oak. They've already been enrolling children away from our district over the last 2 years. Closing River and Harvest, the district already had to have expected they were going to lose students. If they didn't, that seems as an oversight. I absolutely understand that education code must be met, but the objections that I'm hearing all through this evening are from the teachers union and all through the talking points that I've actually seen copies of. These are financial, they're based solely around keeping their jobs, and I completely understand. I love our teachers. I respect our teachers. I want them to have a place to work, to teach. But the objections I'm hearing aren't about the education. They're about talking points. I want to know that my kid has a safe and wonderful place to attend school. I'm frankly scared.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Claire McConnell. Go ahead, please. I guess next speaker is Carlisa Bataller. Go ahead, please.
This is Carlisa Batallier, principal of American Canyon Middle School. Thank you, President Gonzalez-Myers, NVUSD Board of Trustees, Student Board Member, Dr. Missetti, Assistant Superintendent, and fellow community members for the opportunity to speak. I have read over the petition of the Mayacamas Charter School. I'm here tonight to speak out against the approval of this petition. Reflecting over the past few years, it brings me to how the declining enrollment has impacted us all and the necessity it has brought us all to make significant paradigm shifts and adjustments due to the change drivers in our state and community. More specifically, I am grateful for the discerning actions of the Napa Valley Unified School District as they reviewed demographer and budget data. The district has been and continues to be strategic and fiscally prudent in their decisions. The first few decisions in 2019, as tough as they were to take steps to right-size the district by adjusting staff and facilities, which led to reductions in staffing, closure of schools, stopping the building of the American Canyon Middle School number 2. This decision was made because having a second middle school in the region would have devastating financial impacts on today's students, including dramatic program reductions that would potentially eliminate academic and performing arts programs that would adversely impact our students' educational experience over the course of the next few years. For this reason, fiscally responsible and data-driven decisions around moving forward came to a halt. The reasoning at the time was that typically districts create schools when enrollment is growing in order to support students and programs, not declining. At that time, it was excruciatingly painful. In retrospect, the community together understands what had to be done then, as painful as it was, and I compare it to what we have been going through in the middle school redesign process. It too has been painful. However, it is necessary to provide a stable, sound, financially responsible district for the students we serve, which leads me back to the petition of Maya Kamas. When I look at the cost of Maya Kamas, it is not financially prudent to approve the petition for this charter. It will be at the cost of our students of all levels of education in our district. It undermines all the work we have gained to be financially stable. It will affect all students and the ability to be inclusive, equitable, depth and breadth of programs that we have and have provided for our entire community. Thank you for your time and your wise consideration in not approving this charter.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Yes, next speaker is Claire McConnell. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I wasn't able to unmute before. I am a current parent of a 6th grade student at River Middle School, and then have an incoming student. We're still unsure of where she will be, and then a 2nd grader. I just want to point out, now listening to about 38 parents that have given comment, or I'm sorry, 38 people who have given comment. Don't you think it's interesting that teachers and administrators are the ones not interested in this charter, but almost all of the parents speaking are? In fact, only a few, one from Vallejo, talking about how charters made Vallejo public schools not good, which is quite laughable. And there was even a student who took the words right out of my mouth, who had the same comment. So clearly parents want this to happen. And the board is here to represent the parents of this district. Whether you decide tonight to support or deny this charter, know that a very large majority of parents and students within this district are not happy. I encourage you all, trustees, and even superintendent who doesn't live within this district, to come and go out to the community, go to the parks, go to soccer games, go to the farmers market, and start speaking to parents and students about what they want to see in schools. A lot of them are very unsure. A lot of them are very uneasy with the options they have and the current choices. And many of them think Maya Kamas is already an option. I've had a few conversations with a number of parents and asking them, what's your plan for your kid next year for middle school? And they're like, probably Maya Kamas. And I'm like, no, it has not been approved yet. There is no probably Maya Kamas yet. A lot of people in this district already think that this is an option and clearly are quite hopeful that it will be. It is your job to represent this district and not just the teachers. And someone brought up earlier about teachers being instructed to push away the idea of Maya Kamas in parent-teacher conferences, and that makes me sick to my stomach. And the fact that that would even happen is quite disgusting, that that's something that would be encouraged, because we as parents have the right to make these choices for our students and what is best for our children. And right now we're not. someone coming from Up Valley, I hope you know that there are students within Napa Valley Unified who go to Up Valley schools. They dislike their options here so much. So I hope you do a better job representing your district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Wendy Agins Dominguez. Go ahead, please.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Wendy Agins Dominguez in favor of the Maya Commas Charter petition. The comments from several NVUSD staff about the current educational value versus district-wide testing outcomes is proof NVUSD can talk the talk but cannot walk the walk for all of our children. I have been a parent of children in NVUSD since 2012. One child has gone through 3 separate closures in his short K through 7 years. All children deserve a stable educational environment. As a taxpayer, I have been dismayed. The latest closures of Harvest and River after the district's fumbled year online caused me to lose hope in their willingness to put children first, that they are allowed to educate. NVUSD routinely cites cost of living as the reason for declining enrollment, so I was surprised to learn from the area private schools themselves that they have wait lists that Harvest and River closures had made even longer. Maya Commas, a free public charter school open to us all, has given me one last hope that this district will hear parents who need another choice. Even the California Department of Education website states charter schools improve student learning, expand learning experiences for children receiving special education services, which applies to my family, encourages innovative teaching methods, and provides rigorous competition within the public school system to stimulate improvement in all public schools. This sounds like the exact thing NVUSD needs. Maya Commas being a part of the New Tech Network creates a K-12 pathway often touted by your board. Smaller class size is another benefit. California's Quality Education Investment Act found a decrease in class size caused a, quote, statistically significant increase in student achievement, with even larger gains for Hispanic and low SES students. Please vote yes in favor of this new free charter middle school. NVUSD families desperately need a smaller middle school option, and it is my family's last option within this district. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Lagstein Fiona. Go ahead, please.
Hi, sorry, my name is actually Claire Crawford with In the Public Interest. That's my daughter's Zoom name. I'm testifying because we conducted a preliminary analysis of the Maya Commas Charter Middle School petition, and we do have serious concerns, particularly regarding the program for English learners who the school proposes would represent 20% of all students. We did identify at least 19 sections of the charter petition related to the educational program and operations that were mostly copied, in many cases verbatim, from a petition from the Bridges Charter petition in Los Angeles County, including the entire section on English learners. This raises doubts about the capacity of the petitioners to successfully run this school. Unfortunately, many charter schools around the state that were proposed with good intentions failed due to an unsound plan, causing significant disruption to the students in the charter school, as well as for the classes and schools that they return to. We at In the Public Interest have also conducted significant research into the charter school sector in California and published a report called Breaking Point, which documented the costs and impacts to the children that remain with district schools when charter schools open. These impacts are real and can be very significant. For many years, authorizers like NVUSD's board were not allowed to consider the well-being of these students. A very important change was made by the legislature in 2019, and it allowed authorizers, the board in this case, to look at the impact on all students when considering whether to open a charter school, not just the students that would attend the charter school. This charter school could have significant impact on NVUSD middle schools. This is a loss of over 8% of enrollment for the middle schools in NVUSD. Several speakers mentioned that declining enrollment was already causing challenges. It's not in the interest of students in the NVUSD to exacerbate those challenges that you're already seeing. So we hope that the Napa Valley Unified staff will provide an in-depth analysis of the impact this school would have on all Napa Valley students. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Everett Kaplan. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Everett Kaplan. I'm a parent of 2 students in NVUSD. And I'm calling to ask you to vote yes in support of the Maya Commons Charter. I'd like the board to note how many parents of current and former NVUSD students are calling in support of the charter. I've listened to the arguments offered by what seemed to be a disproportionate number of administrators and teachers and union members and association representatives and others. I want them to know that as a parent, I hear you and I value your input. But I want to express, I'm sitting here with my wife and kids, and I want you to understand that each one of these detractors is causing a reaction. And I have to say, it is truly heartbreaking to hear my kids respond to each one of your detractions. I think this charter is attempting to fill a clear need in the community. This charter provides choice, diversity, and inclusion. The curricula and programming, such as social emotional learning, project-based learning, are time-tested. Some elements of these have been integrated and sprinkled across NVUSD. I would offer for the board that bringing together in its totality the curricula, the programming, the faculty, the administrators in a unique learning environment is what the charter is offering. It is something different, and the district is currently not offering that. So I'd recommend a yes vote in support of the charter. Thanks so much. I know it's late in the evening. Appreciate your support.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Yes, next speaker is Noreen Montgomery. Go ahead, please.
All right, I think I did it. Good evening, Dr. Missetti and the Napa Valley Unified School District Board. Thank you so much for taking my comment. My name is Noreen Montgomery, and I am the very proud principal of Napa Junction Elementary School in American Canyon. I'm also a product of the Napa Valley Unified School District, a 1998 vintage high school graduate, as well as, and probably the most important hat I wear, a mother of 2 young children who are attending one of the 2 dual immersion elementary schools and will have the amazing opportunity to follow the path of biliteracy through the up and coming Unidos Middle School. I also very proudly served as an assistant principal at Redwood Middle School for 7 years, a community who is wholeheartedly dedicated to the health and well-being of their students. With the consolidation of River and Harvest, there's a body of professionals working diligently behind the scenes to redesign the middle school system of Napa Valley Unified School District. We together are putting in the work to align practices across school sites in order to best meet the academic and social emotional needs of all children. In supporting this charter, we are not allowing the work of our district to shine, nor are we giving them a chance. Principal Mary Ann Christopherson shared earlier this evening the vision and mission of all middle schools, proving the dedication of our leaders, staff, families, and students alike to the entire youth of our community here in Napa. This for-profit charter is an attempt to privatize a public service. Every school in the district will be affected, and both students and employees will suffer. We all know that we are deep in declining enrollment. In bringing 360 students to Mayacamas Middle School, the district loses thousands upon thousands of dollars that would go directly into the hands of students in the form of programming. It would also most certainly cause another wave of layoffs. Please know that the social emotional focus that Mayacamas supporters speak of, as well as project and problem-based learning, is happening at school sites across our district day in and day out. I ask that you allow the work of the middle school redesign a chance to share their work with our community. All of our students have the right to an equal education and access to best practices and programming that meet the needs of all learners, including social emotional curriculum, intervention programs, English language development, restorative practices, research-based core curriculum, and much, much more. I encourage us not to approve the Mayacamas Charter. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Lorena Munoz. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm also asking the board not to decide yes on the new Mayacamas proposal, middle school. I've been affected by the closure of Harvest already. And I have another student that is coming also, and is not going to be able to go to Harvest. And I think it will be a totally disaster if you guys accept it to open the new school. It's like going back to square one or even worse by closing 2 middle schools, and I'll have 2 middle schools open. But at the same time, the students will be enrolling into that middle school and leaving our district, leaving money or not more money to our district. I think we're going back to, or worse, besides it being a square one. And if that ever happened, that school, I don't think is wrong, but I think it's not the right time to open that school right now. And also, I also think that if they open that school or in the future, or by next year or whenever, I think the district will lose more students, and I see in the future more school closures in the district, because I remember the superintendent says that she's not done closing schools. So that worries me, because I can see in the future closing Redwood or Silverado or any other school, because I know this is not done, and this is not the last school, the last 2 schools she will be closing. So opening another school right now is not the best time. I think that's going to be a huge mistake. I mean, it's not the right time right now, because we're going to be losing too much. We already are, and students are the ones who are be losing more. And yes, I know students are leaving the district, but still, like, we're going to be losing more students by the decisions made. But nobody seems to care. They only see the money. And I feel like the district is being comfortable with the decisions. Like, if the district doesn't get enough money from the county or from the state, we just be confirmed and say, okay, that's fine, let's close schools then. I think we have to work harder and, for the students to get more money, not just recline on our chairs and say, just close more schools. I think there has to be a different way to do this. That way, all parents will have the same choice to have the better school they want for their kids. That's it.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is the initials CV. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for providing the opportunity for us to share our personal thoughts and views regarding the current Mayacamas Charter. Since we have limited time, I'll try to make some brief comments. First of all, I am a parent, and I am also a teacher. And to address comments of previous speakers that have said that it's only teachers, union members, and such that are making comments. Most of the speakers that have spoken do have children in the district. Just because they didn't specifically say, I am also a parent, they are parents and they do have children in the district. So I have lived in Napa for 20 years. My two children have gone through the public schools, and I am currently a teacher at American Canyon High School. And I urge the board to please vote no on this application. What it comes down to is this is a publicly funded private school. It's not a dependent school, it's independent charter, which means that there is no accountability. The board members are not educators, they're lawyers. They're not educators, they're lawyers and people in the wine industry. So my question would be, how would they know when they're setting up policies and procedures and hiring teachers? It's not a school of choice. Mr. Lentz himself said that River School was so popular that they had to turn hundreds of students away, not a few, hundreds. To me, that does not say that that is a school of choice. That says that that is a very limited choice. There are thousands of students in the district that will be impacted if the district loses the funding. Again, it's independent. So as a resident, my taxpayer money would be going to this charter, but there would be no accountability for the employees and staff. Someone commented that teachers can leave our jobs and go and work there. We would lose our retirement, our seniority, because it is not part of the current district as an independent school. Please consider all of the arguments that you've heard and vote no.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Keith Weckler. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Keith Weckler. I'm an 18-year teacher within the Napa Valley Unified School District. First, I'd like to clarify the Maya Kamas charter is not a for-profit charter. I'm not sure where that's coming from. The CTA representative stated that. An administrator in the district stated that. That is not true. I'd like you to fact check that, please. I support the Maya Kama petition. I've heard lots of opposition to that. I hope they've actually read the petition and aren't just going off the NVEA talking points. Maya Kamas includes proven program elements not committed to by the other middle schools currently in our district. The New Tech Network, PBL, which would create a pathway that Dr. Missetti talked so frequently about, and a Daly advisory program to build strong relationships. When the board voted to close Harvest and River, they promised to increase SEL programs, but advisory wasn't even mentioned recently in the recent middle school presentations of daily schedules. Parents in Napa County deserve choice. And as we can see by the 100 or more parents who have signed the petition and the parents who have spoken here tonight, they would like choice about where to send their students to middle school. And as representatives of the parents, I would strongly encourage the board to take that voice into consideration and approve this petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Yev Taylor. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I am the parent of a River alum, the other a current River school student. Our family has attended NVUSD schools for 10 years now, and regretfully, what we found is that the district repeatedly misrepresents itself. Examples include Alta Heights being a magnet school focused on math, art, science, and technology, which it never was during our time there, and NVUSD maneuvering to take River's charter and promising to retain its program and then closing the school, or about to close the school. These are two programs we wanted that no longer exist or soon won't. I am speaking out, asking you to grant Maya Kamas Charter Middle School a charter because I know what a benefit the school will be to our community. It is a model that has support, is proven can thrive, and a choice our community wants and needs. The district has spent thousands of dollars on a SEL training they want to incorporate into all classrooms, or they will be. There's been discussion about it. In my opinion, this isn't going to work. Even if it is already being utilized in some programs, it isn't the same as the actual program being a core part of the curriculum there at River, where it is now. I liken this also to the millions of dollars that was wasted on the magnet program at Alta Heights all those years ago. And it's also like a new sales campaign in the corporate world that just fizzles out after a while. In my opinion, you have to have buy-in from all leadership, all staff, and training and commitment for the long haul. Otherwise, it's a waste of money. Training that isn't verified to be utilized isn't going to replace a program. Even adding a few minutes of SEL each day to class time isn't going to be impactful. The solution is an actual school where teachers are trained, students want to be there, and a culture thrives. Maya Kamas adds diversity in programming to our middle school. True, the district will lose students in their middle school years, but at least they won't lose them to private schools for longer. I hope the board can see that dollars and cents wise, which I know is of utmost importance, it is actually a wiser decision to grant the charter than to not. Thank you.
Period. Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Melinda Basor. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to repeat what I've heard before about the people that were speaking, the teachers, the administrators, and they were saying they were being overrepresented. And I personally know, as of myself, I had 4 children that came through the Napa Valley Unified School District, as well as these other teachers that are speaking. They have children currently, or they have had children come through the district. So we are parents. We may be teachers and administrators, but we actually did have our kids come through NVUSD. And I think that, being that said, you know, I was at Redwood for 10 years, and then now I'm a proud sheer explorer. And I think we do know what kind of programs are being offered. And I don't believe that this new charter school is going to offer anything different than what we currently have. And being in the school system, having my kids go through the system, I believe that we do have a different perspective than some of the parents that have never had a child go through NVUSD or elementary. Yeah. Not all the information of what we being misleading when they're saying that only parents are for River School and, you know, in support of petition are calling in, because all the parents that I'm hearing, whether they're teachers, administrators, or whatnot, they actually had children go through the system or currently do. Well, thank you for letting us explain for the time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Claire Silver. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, just working on the unmute. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello all, and thank you for your time. I am here to support the Maya Kamas Middle School. As a parent of multiple students in the NVUSD, I am distraught. There's a lot of talk about all the wonderful things the district offers. I only know about how students here in Napa do not have equal access to electives, music, language, art, counselors, technology classes, et al. In this district. Good schools with a robust curriculum are what draw families to communities. Currently, at the NVUSD elementary schools, PTAs are having to raise their own funds to provide these types of things. They are paying instructors, which makes volunteer parents employers, and only in specific neighborhoods. How is this even allowed? How is this equity? All of the failings of the district lie on the parents to pick up the pieces. And here we are again, parents picking up the pieces because we all want what's best for the children of Napa. Middle school is such a pivotal time for students to develop. One example I really struggled with to understand was the increase of the student to teacher ratio after the closures of the 2 middle schools. I don't understand how it's going to help any type of student develop to full potential. If, for example, the advisory lasts 30 minutes, that leaves 80 seconds per student in advisory in a class of 36 students to 1 teacher. It feels like the district has thrown their hands up and taken a fatalistic approach with blame placed on the future loss of students, and now they're blaming this petition. Not even a small acknowledgement of the adverse effect or stress inflicted on the current students, closure after closure after closure, as they move year after year to a new school, not by choice, but by force. Please stop forcing my children into the district box and give families in our community a choice. Please vote for opportunities in our community. Yes, on the Maya Kamas Middle School for the kids.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Savannah Kurtlink. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm a mother to 4, soon to be 5 children attending school in the district. My daughter attended not 1, but 4 Napa Valley Unified School, elementary school, after attending a private school. And every experience we had was lacking. I find it unbelievable to hear all of these comments about the lack of available funds and how they would be so much, they wouldn't be available if the school was to be open. In a community that has incredibly high living costs, rents, and property values, it's beyond understanding why we wouldn't have sufficient funds to support 3 schools. There was a comment about how the school wouldn't be of choice because hundreds of people were denied access to River School. That was because it was so desirable. So I am definitely for the school opening. I hope that we will not only approve this school, but also get to the bottom of why we don't have the necessary funding available. Education should be a top priority, and obviously it's just not so in our community. Thank you for hearing my thoughts.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
There's no further public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Seeing that there's no further public comment, I am going to close the public hearing. And now look at the board if there's any comments at this time. Okay.
I'd just like to thank everybody who spoke tonight.
Yes, thank you, Trustee Water. Absolutely. Roughly 41 speakers is what I counted. So thank you for your input and sticking with us this evening and staying with us. All right, that being said, we now move along with our agenda into consent items.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Jankowicz. Student Board Rep. Aye. Before I continue, I'm going to ask if there's any public comment on consent agenda items.
There's no public comment for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. For a second, our student board voted. All those in favor?
Do we need a roll call on this?
Consent, thank you, Trustee Daly. Roll call, Ms. Prissy, please.
Student Board Member Bitt.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next items are action items H1A. This is the discussion and approval resolution number 20-06, authorizing continued use of remote teleconferencing provisions pursuant to AB 361 and Government Code Section 54953.
So moved. Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley, and this is a resolution, and we could get roll call. And prior to that, I'm sorry, do I have any public comment, Mr. Michael, on this item?
There's no public comment for this item.
Thank you. We do see one hand raised. Is there one, Mr. Michaels? Can you confirm?
Yes, Amy Martinson, go ahead, please.
I'm not hearing anything in the boardroom.
Oh, here we go. Is this to extend to online? I had to leave the room for a second.
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, I basically just want to reiterate what I said at the last meeting, that I think there's a mixed message that's happening here. According to the resolution, the board meetings are too unsafe for adults to attend in person. But again, students and staff are attending school every day in person, wearing masks and without social distancing. So I just don't understand how, if it's safe for us to be doing that every day, why it's not safe for adults who have a choice to attend a board meeting in person wearing masks without social distancing. If it's safe for students and staff, it's safe for adults attending a board meeting. And we are talking about adults who can make their own decision about whether or not attending a board meeting is safe. They don't need the board to make that decision for them. And frankly, it just seems like there's other motivations behind this. You know, it seems like it's more about not having to deal with people who are very upset right now about what's going on, especially with the medical mandates, the COVID vaccine mandates and the mask mandates. It's nice to be able to stand, be behind a Zoom and not see people, and use your mute button to cut people off when you feel they're off topic or they've gone too long. But that's not what this is supposed to be about. This is supposed to be about engaging with the public, listening to them, letting it inform your decision making. And sometimes it should change the way you vote one way or the other, or the way you think about something one way or the other. So again, I encourage you to vote no on this resolution. And lastly, the stats are at an all-time low right now. Hospitalizations are at an all-time low. Cases are at an all-time low. Everything's at an all-time low. So there's really no reason for it. One comment that somebody made last time was that you were waiting for more people to be vaccinated. I do want to point out that if you look at the county website right now,
The most recent posting was from October 24th. There were 4 people in the hospital. They were all fully vaccinated. 1 person was in the ICU, fully vaccinated. And the paper just recently reported the last 2 deaths in Napa County, both fully vaccinated. So this vaccination does not stop infection or transmission. It should not be a reason. The vaccination rate should have no bearing on whether or not you open your meetings to in person. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Yes, the next speaker is Valerie Wolf. Go ahead, please.
Okay, here we go. I'm unmuted now. Good evening, board members. Continuing to hold meetings online without option to meet in person just doesn't make any sense anymore at this point to me. So please, staff, reject the recommendation and allow those who want to participate in public to do so. The Napa County Board of Supervisors are holding in-person meetings, and that seems to be working just fine. Excuse me. So in my personal opinion, we're witnessing signs of increasing totalitarianism throughout the world. And it's clear that unless we break this corona illusion that we keep ourselves in, the disturbing trend gets harder and harder to reverse. So please, let's get back together and meet in person and see each other. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Karina Cervente. Go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening again. I'm actually taking advantage of being at a meeting, and the reason I heard these couple comments that went ahead of me, and it made me think that I do not have a problem with keeping the meetings online. In fact, for our city of American Canyon has been really a blessing in disguise because we're actually able to participate when the meetings are in person and at the district office. It is so hard to commute to those meetings. So I really appreciate having the opportunity to be part of these meetings, be able to express my concerns and my opinions. So, I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Jacqueline Roars. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I just want to express what the first 2 speakers said. I don't agree with the online Zoom calls. I think that it's very impersonal. And I think it's really easy when you're on a Zoom call to mute somebody or to not allow all the speakers to speak. And it's a little harder to do that face-to-face. And when you're face-to-face with somebody, it just makes it much more personal. And I understand that's hard sometimes, especially when you may have an opposing view. But I think it's really important that you see how passionate some of us parents are. And I get that that's hard to see face to face, but like enough is enough already. How long are we going to drag this on for? I don't get to mute my job, mute seeing the people I need to see as a healthcare worker. I don't get to mute the children coming in to the hospital. This is just enough. We just need to put on our big kid pants and get going. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Pam Demick. Go ahead, please.
We're not hearing anything in the boardroom.
Pam, you're on mute.
Mr. Michaels, let's go to the next speaker.
Next speaker is Anthony P. Go ahead, please.
I believe it's important to do both. Parents should and need to be able to interact with the board face to face, and it also should be an option for mediated others who are unable to make the meetings, so that there's a holistic approach to this, as well as it is very frightening, this B.F. Skinner model of behavior modification that is going on right now. And that is, there's something that is, this is just not right. It almost represents crime to humanity. And, you know, as a student who can't even go to campus, who sees what's going on, and I have to be forced to do remote learning, I feel so bad for the children and the parents. I feel so bad for them. And I can only imagine what it must be like. And I feel so bad for the students that must wear this medical device over their face every time, when only 7% of our communication is words. The rest is, you know, your body language and how we accentuate words with the moving of the mouth. I can only imagine how students feel trying to learn any language with a mask on, or how any teacher tries to teach with a mask on effectively, especially knowing what this is. And these vaccines, it's amazing. And I mean, there's clearly, you know, what needs to happen is the next generation needs to be successful and independent and knowing themselves, and civic duty and responsibility. And you should be taking that. You are the leaders. You should be standing up to the state. You should be saying, hey, we know what's going on. Why is it taking so much to realize what's going on? Because it is so clear. And, you know, I get people are scared. It's something, you know, it's totally understandable. But at this point, I mean, seriously, and especially with all the information, everything, and no matter how much it's censored, no matter how much it's, you know, pushing people, the thing is, everyone has a responsibility, not just to themselves, but to their families and their community. And that starts with everyone. It starts with the kids. It means making a better generation. It means being responsible. So yes, you should have both. You should have both. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Savannah Kurtlink. Go ahead, please.
I'm totally against continuing the board meetings through Zoom calls. However, if we must be on Zoom, why aren't we able to see one another? I have no way of knowing how many people are in attendance. Also, there's things that we can do to make others feel safer, like be outside. We can social distance and wear masks. So with that being said, if we can be outside or social distance and wear masks, and then also if we can't do those things, which are not reasonable, then we should be at least able to see one another on the screen. All I can see right now is how many minutes or seconds I have left to speak. It's incredibly impossible to have an understanding of how my fellow community members are feeling, how many people are in attendance. And so at minimum, we have to do better, because if we don't, it really looks like you don't want to hear what we have to say. And I don't think that's the message you really want your community to feel or to get. So I encourage you to fix these things so that make it make sense. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Pam Demick. Go ahead, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm very sorry. I was having technical difficulties with my phone. So yeah, I've been listening to y'all and I really feel that the board, you guys need to stop hiding behind Zoom. You guys can handle this. You guys got this. You need to be able to look the public in the eye, and then you'll be able to look at yourself in the mirror and feel so much better about all the hard work you guys are doing there. And you need to feel the emotion of the parents who are concerned about their safety and their children's health. So I just really, really encourage you to do both. You guys can do both. You can have your Zoom for people who have a hard time getting there on time, or they don't want to commute, like the gal from American Canyon. And I encourage you to do both Zoom and let people come in and sit eye to eye and look at you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment. Next speaker.
We have no further public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. We had a first and a second. And this is a resolution. I'll ask Ms. Prezi to please conduct roll call unless.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Trustee Daly.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that we are still in the midst of a declared public emergency. The public health official for the county has determined that the emergency requires mitigations and social distancing, that and those are the conditions under which we are considering this resolution. This is not, at least for me, I'm not voting on this so that I don't have to see parents or people at our meetings. This is not an effort to hide behind anything. This is a public safety measure that we are taking. It's a necessary thing, but I also I am concerned and want to be sure that we are, attuned to the public health conditions, so that when and if we are in a position to hold meetings in person again, that we do so. Built into this process is we consider this every month. That's important. This is what we're doing today. We are in a county where, under the CDC guidelines, we are not in a position to remove mask mandates. We're not in a position to reduce those mitigations that are necessary to prevent the transmission of a deadly disease. Under those conditions, in order to conduct the business of the district, this is an appropriate mechanism.
Thank you, Trustee Dooley. That was very well articulated.
And I would just like to add that for those commenters who said that this resolution is an indication that we don't care what you have to say, we're concluding 3 hours and 15 minutes of public comment in this public hearing. That's exactly why we all came here tonight for this special meeting. So I just would like to say that along with my fellow trustees, as a board and a governance team, we are committed to hearing from the public. We very much want to hear from parents and teachers and community members and students of our schools, and that's why we hold public hearings. And I'll reiterate what Trustee Waters said. I thank everybody for taking the time to engage and call in and share your point of view.
I think it's important to address the do both crowd. That's not a thing that we can do under the Brown Act. Unless we pass this resolution, there is no Zoom access. There is no remote access for people who are not able to be physically present That's just not allowed by the law. So unless this resolution passes, there is no remote access. There's no opportunity for those who cannot come physically or choose that would be bad for their health to attend such a meeting based on their circumstances.
And participation has increased with having Zoom accessibility. So we've actually been able to reach more constituents, hear more feedback, engage with our community in a very productive manner. So as much as I understand the face-to-face, and we too are looking forward to that as well, this is the most prudent action at this point in time.
Thank you for everybody's comments. Okay. All right, we had a first and a second. Ms. Pressey, if you could please join us and conduct roll call.
Yes. Student Board Member Bitt.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Aye.
Trustee Jankowicz.
Aye.
Trustee Gracia.
Aye.
Trustee Riser.
Aye.
Trustee Water.
Aye.
Trustee Chu.
Aye.
Trustee Dooley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we now move on to items H2, business services. This is H2A, agreement between NVUSD and Pelosi Ziprat Law Firm.
So moved.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. Do I have any public comment on this item?
We do have public comment. Liberty, go ahead, please.
Hello, I missed it on that last one, but I just wanted to encourage more transparency.
Thank you for your comment.
And so if we're gonna go based on Dr.
We're on our next item, thank you. So this is public comment on item H2B.
There is no further public comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, item H2A. Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Michael. Seeing there's no public comment, we had a first and a second. Student Board Rep. Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Thank you. Now on to item H2B, facility use agreement between Curative Labs and Napa Valley Unified School District.
So moved.
Second.
First by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Dooley. Do I have public comment on item H2B?
We do have public comment. Amy Martinson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I am going to talk on this item, but I do want to clarify the Board of Supervisors have in-person meetings and you can call in. You can do both. Regarding the testing site.
We've already discussed that item. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm talking about the testing site now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, just a couple things. I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, you know, because the district does require certain people to test, whether it's fair or not, or science-based or not. I do think it's important to make it convenient for people. I have some concerns about the site location, how visible it is for people who are going to test. And about the plastic suits they're wearing, it's very dramatic, kind of incites a sense of fear, which is unnecessary. And then I've heard some comments from some teachers who have gone to test and they've been basically reprimanded and barked at to wear their masks, even though it's outside, and county policy and district policy is that you don't have to wear masks outside. And they've been basically forced to wear masks when they go to test. I also today heard that there was a small child, a toddler, who was being trying to be tested. The child was crying, he didn't want the swab up his nose. They basically had to hold him down to insert the swab in his nose. And so it brings me back to the swab issue I talked about last time. I'm very glad to hear that you're not using swabs that are sterilized with ethylene oxide, which is a carcinogen. They are using the swabs that are sterilized with irradiation, but they are still swabs and they're still inserted in the nose. It's still invasive. They're still made from synthetic nylon fibers that experiments have shown are left behind in the nose and absorbed by the body, but mainly it's the invasive nature of the test. And again, if people are required to test, why not use the least invasive test that's possible, which is the saliva test. And as I mentioned before, there's one produced by Yale or developed by Yale called Saliva Direct. It's completely non-invasive. There are no swabs in the nose or mouth. You dribble into a tube that's sent off, and it's supposed to be a lot less expensive according to the website. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it should be looked at because again, if people have to test, at least make it humane and non-invasive, and that would be the saliva method. Thank you.
Next speaker, Mr. Michaels.
There's no further public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. We did have a first and a second. Student board rep. Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Thank you. We're now moving to item H3A. This is SPC number 2.1-22, request for emergency authorization to proceed with Wright Contracting to perform corrective work at Redwood Middle School gym.
So moved.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Daly. Do I have public comment on this item?
There's no public comment for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Any comment from the board? No? Student board rep? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. H3B, SPC number 18.50-20, request for DSA plan review of fees check for the Silverado Middle School campus modernization phase 2.
So moved.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Daly. Do I have public comment on this item?
There's no public comment for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Student board rep? Aye. All those in favor? Aye. Oppose or abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Now item H3C, SPC number 15.1-22, request for approval of utility location services for the fire water line replacement project at Napa High School.
So moved.
Second.
First by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Daly. Do I have public comment on this item?
There's no public comment for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Michaels. Student board rep? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Right, our last item is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
First by trustee Gracia.
I'll second it.
Okay, second by trustee Water. Student board rep? Aye. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.